Russell Westbrook looks broken.
I'm over Russell Westbrook. I think he's kind of sad now.
Could this be the end of Russ as we know him, Russ the superstar?
It could be.
Adams gives it back to Russ. Deep shot.
But the reality is Kevin Durant's actions left Russell Westbrook hanging.
He's not only a disaster, but he's, to me, an unfixable disaster because he has no conscience.
Russell Westbrook's career is an up and down roller coaster with incredible highs and upsetting lows. His fiery dunks and unreal game winners made him a fan favorite among the NBA masses, but criticism soon began seeping through the unrelenting praise. Spectators who called Westbrook a ball hog were slowly growing louder as the years passed by, and fans questioned if Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook had what it took to win a championship. These concerns were amplified in the 2016 Western Conference Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder blew a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors. Both Westbrook and Durant struggled in this series. Russ was outdueled and destroyed by whom many consider to be the far superior guard in Stephen Curry. Kevin Durant then left in the summer of 2016, abandoning his teammate of 8 seasons for the Bay Area, leaving many to wonder if KD left due to Westbrook's ball-dominant playstyle. Regardless, Russ was unfazed by this decision. He had an historic MVP campaign in the 2016-17 season, climbing up the ladder and becoming the king of the basketball world. Russell Westbrook's offensive-minded dominance produced the most triple-doubles in one season in NBA history. The Brodie received the MVP award, an esteemed accomplishment for the guard. However, what followed this spectacular peak was frustration. In the ensuing 3 seasons, Westbrook suffered 3 straight first-round exits with the Thunder. His reputation and fame among fans slowly began deteriorating, and negative questions surrounding his performances in the playoffs rose. 2 more early exits in Round 2 and Round 1 with the Houston Rockets and Washington Wizards eased no worries. The opinion surrounding Russell Westbrook's career and his achievements went from excited and hopeful to polarizing and controversial. Once he was traded to the bright city of Los Angeles, all eyes were placed on him, and he became the most scrutinized player in the league, blamed for a majority of the failures that came the Lakers' way. But why was this the case? How has Westbrook's reputation been tainted so quickly? And why has he failed to achieve recent playoff success? This is the rise and fall of Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's first years with the Oklahoma City Thunder saw the young guard quickly climb up the ladder to become a key piece on his team, and he was a household name in no time. Pick number 4 in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Thunder envisioned the high-flying guard as being the second piece alongside fellow rising star Kevin Durant. KD and Russ each had different playstyles, KD being a dynamic scorer who could shoot the lights out, while Russ relied more on slashing to the rim and finishing tough layups. By the end of Westbrook's rookie season, he finished with an inefficient 15 points per game average, but the potential was clear. Westbrook showed consistent flashes of his offensive talent. He had a quick first step that could burn any defense when attacking the rack, producing endless poster dunks on his resume. The 2008-2009 season for the Thunder concluded with an ugly 23-win record, but all eyes were on the future in OKC. The 2009 draft brought another piece in the form of Arizona State shooting guard James Harden, and just like that, the new Big Three in Oklahoma City was formed. The expectations were modest at first, but nobody could have predicted the pure dominance this young core would soon inflict on the league. The Thunder exploded in the 2009-2010 season, winning 50 games, a 27-win improvement over the prior year, and Russ was a key factor in that. His points and field goal percentage went up, but his improvement on the defensive end took the headlines. Russ was more disciplined guarding the perimeter, averaging a steal per game and becoming the steady starting point guard for the team. OKC cracked the playoffs at the 8th seed in a tough Western Conference. Westbrook was already in the postseason in just year 2. Round 1 against the defending champion Lakers would be the first team Russ would face in his playoff debut, and he showed out. Westbrook averaged a phenomenal 20 points per game on an efficient 47% from the field and 40% from 3. This series left many convinced that number 0 was a star in the making. His ferocious dunks and burning passion for the game of basketball shocked the Lakers. In Game 6, OKC suffered heartbreak, losing on a Pau Gasol game winner. Disappointment was in the air in Chesapeake Arena, and while the score wasn't in the Thunder's favor this time around, one thing was very clear: they'd be back. The 2010-11 season saw the greatest jump in Westbrook's game yet. He was now a 22 points per game scorer, and began certifying himself as one of the most electric point guards in the league. He was a first-time All-Star in year 3 at the age of 22, and the Thunder were somehow even better than the prior year. OKC achieved 55 wins, and this time around, they were no 8th seed. Oklahoma City stamped their names on the 4th slot in the West. A deep playoff run soon ensued as the Baby Thunder advanced to the Western Conference Finals on the backs of Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Unfortunately, their magical run came to a screeching halt against Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. The veteran Nowitzki was a man on a mission, hunting his first ring, and the inexperienced Thunder were stepped on, losing in 5. As OKC fans applauded their squad for yet another impressive playoff run, there were a few critics coming out of the woodwork to blame Russell Westbrook for this defeat. Westbrook averaged 24 a game in the Western Conference Finals, but it came on a mediocre 36% from the field and 20% from 3. Westbrook's postseason efficiency stats were underwhelming. Overall, he shot 40-30-85 splits. There were moments on offense where he looked out of control and lost. Still, those that questioned this were met with rolled eyes. Russ was still very young, and the hope was that he'd improve on these issues in the future. The 2011-2012 season for Oklahoma City was met with even more winning. The Thunder won 47 games out of 66, towering over a majority of the West with the number 2 seed to their name. By this point, Russell Westbrook was hailed as one of the most exciting players in the league. If you had a favorite point guard, there was a great chance that he was in one of Westbrook's posters. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and James Harden were a force to be reckoned with, and the playoffs brought no end to this reign of terror. OKC flew past the West, getting revenge on the Mavericks in a sweep, and handling the Lakers in 5. The Western Conference Finals arrived, and it was a battle between the successful veterans in San Antonio and the Baby Thunder in Oklahoma City. The Thunder won in 6. The entire team stepped up in prime time to send the Spurs home. Westbrook's numbers dropped. He went from 24 points a game in the regular season to 18. And his field goal percentage dipped by 8%. None of this mattered though, because when it came to the eye test, Westbrook was an A+ student. He had a vicious offensive repertoire and an unmatched killer gene. There was no doubt about it. He was a key star piece on a championship contending team, and the future seemed glorious for OKC. The 2012 finals saw them face off against a hungry Miami Heat team, and to the dismay of Oklahoma City, they dropped the series in 5. Russell Westbrook had his ups and downs. He averaged 27 a game, but it came on 13% shooting from downtown. He scored an unbelievable 43 points in Game 4, but he also made a terrible foul decision on Mario Chalmers that was completely unneeded because the shot clock was at 4 seconds. Westbrook was criticized for his tendency to take unneeded long jump shots when his teammates were open, and this ball-dominant attitude earned him the negative label of a ball hog. Fans wondered if the Thunder would be better off with a pass-first playmaking guard at the 1 spot instead, but little did they know, that playmaker was coming off the bench. In the fall of 2012, James Harden, the 6th Man of the Year winner and rising young piece, wanted a max contract from OKC. The Thunder refused. They'd already given max money to KD and Russ, and with a hefty contract tied to Kendrick Perkins, OKC wasn't budging. Harden was traded to Houston, which turned the Big Three into the Big Two, a duo, KD and Russ. The initial impact of the Harden trade didn't affect OKC much. They had what was their best season yet, winning 60 games. Another finals appearance was in the rearview mirror, but in round 1 against the Houston Rockets, that glass was shattered. In Game 2, opposing defender Patrick Beverley dove into Westbrook's knees in an attempt to steal the basketball, thus tearing Westbrook's meniscus. Not only would this sideline Russ for the entirety of the 2013 playoffs, but his streak of playing every single game for the first 5 seasons of his career was snapped. In the blink of an eye, Russell Westbrook's chances at a surefire deep playoff run were destroyed, and it was all due to a set of events that was preventable. OKC lost in round 2 to the Grizzlies, ending their 60-win season in misery. The 2013-14 season began without Russell Westbrook on the court, but Kevin Durant had no problem carrying his squad to dubs without him. KD led OKC to 59 wins, landing the MVP award for his spectacular 32 points per game average. Not only did this season produce some of the best offensive play the league had ever seen, but it gave KD one thing: fiery confidence. Westbrook missed 36 games and spent a majority of the year shaking off his rust, which left Durant alone, and he was more than happy to step up. This could have very well given KD confidence that he could win games without Russ. OKC landed the 2nd seed thanks to number 35's contributions. Championship expectations were in the air once again, and while the 2014 playoffs saw a great run from OKC, no banner was raised in Oklahoma. The Thunder won the first 2 rounds against Memphis and then LA, with Westbrook averaging a fantastic 28 a game in round 2. Playoff series like these showed the pure superstar potential that Russ had. When he was on fire, he was unstoppable. However, that burning fire was extinguished by the San Antonio Spurs, who knocked the Thunder out of the Western Conference Finals in 6. Russell Westbrook shot 8 of 23 from the field and 1 of 6 from 3 in a do-or-die Game 6. Disappointing numbers in a must-win game. KD dropped 31 on 48% from the field and 25% from 3, but those points weren't enough to outlast the eventual champion Spurs. A tough defeat for sure, but many believe the Thunder were slowly inching closer and closer to their eventual goal of a championship. Yet, those feelings of positivity would melt away in October of 2014, when it was announced Kevin Durant had suffered a Jones fracture. This injury sidelined him for 55 games in the regular season, a massive blow to the Thunder that knocked them off the top of the Western Conference and down into the abyss. They finished the 2014-15 season at the 9th seed with 45 wins, missing the playoffs for the first time since 2009. Russell Westbrook dumped every ounce of his effort into the 67 games he played, averaging a then career-high 28 points per night, re-establishing himself as an all-star once again. Russ was back and better than ever, and while this season may have been one to forget for the Thunder, it was clear that when KD would return, things would be scary. The 2015-16 season for Oklahoma City was the last year Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were teammates on the Thunder, and it was unforgettable. The Thunder won a phenomenal 55 games, with Russ and KD combining for nearly 50 points per game on average. Westbrook was heavily regarded as a top 3 point guard in the league, even sneaking his way up to the MVP chart, landing the number 4 spot. The Thunder blazed through the first 82 games, finishing 3rd in the West, entering the final 16 games with confidence and swagger in their step. The duo of number 0 and number 35 were now in their 8th season together, and time was running out. They needed to impress in the postseason. The 2016 playoffs initially brought triumph, with 2 straight first-round victories by Oklahoma City. OKC beat both the Mavericks and 67-win San Antonio Spurs in rounds 1 and 2. Impressive achievements led by none other than Westbrook and the Slim Reaper themselves. OKC had climbed to the Western Conference Finals, and this time around, their opponent was no easy foe. The 73-win Golden State Warriors were looking to defend their 2015 championship, and they had a flashy point guard in Stephen Curry, who many considered to be better than Westbrook. Steph may have had outstanding shooting, but through the first 4 games, Westbrook destroyed him with elite slashing. Russ scored 27 in Game 1, 30 in Game 3, and 36 in Game 4. Dominating the paint with rim-rocking dunks. The points may have been nice, but the playmaking Russ displayed was even more breathtaking. He dropped 47 assists in games 1 through 4. Unreal numbers. Oklahoma City was up 3-1 on the Warriors, and were just 1 win away from reaching the biggest stage. The last time OKC was in the finals, Russ and KD were young, with little experience. They wanted to redeem themselves, and this was their chance. The Thunder had 3 different opportunities to close it out and advance, but each time, they failed. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook's play diminished when they were needed most. They both shot below 40% in games 5 and 6, and in game 7, Steph Curry destroyed them with 34 points. Westbrook shot 5 of 19 from 3 and 28 of 76 from the field in the last 3 games. For as explosive as he was in the beginning, the ending was miserable for the Brodie. Kevin Durant was unimpressive as well, shooting 40% from the field in the final 3. The 2-time MVP and Curry won the fight, and had embarrassed the state of Oklahoma. OKC became one of only a few teams to blow a 3-1 lead in the playoffs. A disaster had unfolded, and a championship opportunity had been squandered. A finish like this already left a bad taste in the mouths of Thunder fans, but what transpired in the ensuing weeks broke their hearts even more. Kevin Durant, drafted by Seattle and developed in Oklahoma City, left the team on July 4th for Golden State. The same team that Durant had just lost a 3-1 lead to was now his new home. He wanted a championship, and didn't believe it could be accomplished in OKC. Russ was blindsided by this move. Reports came out that KD didn't even call Westbrook to inform him of his decision. Ironically enough, posted to Westbrook's Instagram account on July 4th, the day KD left, was a picture of cupcakes, with the caption, "Happy 4th." Fans ran with this, giving Durant a new nickname that would echo throughout the basketball landscape: Cupcake. Russ then signed a 3-year extension with OKC exactly 1 month after Durant left. He was loyal to OKC and showed it. Westbrook was now without his tenured partner in crime, and he was hungry to show the doubters that he could lead a team. What would soon follow would go down as one of the most historic seasons in NBA history. The 2016-17 season for Russell Westbrook was unbelievable from the opening tip. Westbrook put on an offensive showcase every single night. He put the team on his back and stuffed the stat sheet while he was at it, becoming the first player in 50 years to average a triple-double. His 32 points per game were all highlight reel worthy buckets. The Brodie could throw it down on any defender, but also step out and drill mid-range J's. He had countless clutch shots on his resume. His playmaking and handles were elite, and his heart and passion for the game made him a respected basketball warrior. His famous phrase, "Why not?" inspired millions of fans, and he was the living embodiment of such an expression. Why not lead your team to the playoffs? Why not average 32 points? Each game he achieved a triple-double was history being written. Russ creeped closer and closer to breaking the record for the most triple-doubles in a season. In an April 2017 game against the Denver Nuggets, Russ did just that, achieving his 42nd triple-double of the year, breaking Oscar Robertson's record for the most in one season. Still, this gave Westbrook little fulfillment for the moment. His team trailed by 10 with 4 minutes left. He took over, scoring multiple layups to bring his team to within 2 with 3 seconds left. As the Thunder were preparing to inbound, excitement was in the air in Denver. All the fans knew who the ball would be going to, and then it happened. One of the greatest game winners in NBA history, because why not?
Gets it back to Russ. Deep shot. What a perfect ending to a historic day.
This was the peak of Russell Westbrook's career. He had just nailed a game winner to give him 50 points on the night, and his legendary, unprecedented 40-second triple-double had been realized. Not only that, but the MVP award was his. Russell Westbrook was the most valuable player. He did it all by himself, and was now in the upper echelon of NBA history when it came to records. But when you zoomed out from Westbrook, the Thunder's roster and team was mediocre. 47 wins landed them the 6th seed, and it was clear that they were ways away from actually contending. This harsh truth was recognized in round 1 of the 2017 playoffs. The Thunder lost in 5 to the Houston Rockets. Westbrook did all that he could do to try and will his team to victory, but his squad was out-talented by Houston. Russ averaged 37 per game in round 1, including 51 points and 47 points in games 2 and 5. Quite impressive on the surface, but critics jumped to point out the below-average efficiency Westbrook shot in this series. 38% from the field and 26% from 3 were poor numbers, but they were excused due to the lack of help. The Brodie was the least of OKC's problems. The Thunder needed to acquire a second star. And acquire a second star they did. In late June of 2017, Paul George was traded to the Thunder in exchange for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. PG-13 was a star player who was eager to win a championship. And what was shocking about this is how little the Thunder gave up. Victor Oladipo at this point was an unproven average starter, and Domantas Sabonis was a young rookie with potential. Receiving an all-star in Paul George for those two was seen as a fleece, and just like that, the new duo was formed in Oklahoma. Sam Presti, the general manager at the time, wasn't satisfied with just 2 all-stars. He wanted a big 3. In September of 2017, Carmelo Anthony, a Hall of Fame all-star level player, was traded to the Thunder in exchange for Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott. Yet another star player was added to the group for a small price. The trio of Melo, Russ, and PG-13 was expected to wreak havoc on any who challenged them. But the 2017-18 season for the Thunder was an inconsistent disaster from the start. Westbrook and Paul George had trouble fitting together, and Carmelo Anthony looked lost and out of place as a third option on the court. Andre Robertson, a key starting piece, suffered a season-ending ruptured patella, which was a huge blow to the team's defense. Still, as the season progressed, OKC went on a winning streak and showed promise at times, even beating the defending champion Warriors at home by 17. In this game, Russ and KD jawed at one another, a stark contrast from their past when they were best friends on the court. Westbrook's numbers understandably dipped from 32 points per game to 25, and he once again averaged a triple-double. The numbers were exciting, but the majority of spectators couldn't care less. They wanted to see what this OKC team could do come playoff time. The Thunder wrapped up the year with 48 wins, only one more than the prior year, but a 15-8 record post-All-Star break gave fans confidence. The 2018 playoffs opened up with the team facing the Utah Jazz and rookie Donovan Mitchell, but what appeared to be an easy victory devolved into a nightmare. The Jazz defeated the Thunder in 6. Donovan Mitchell averaged 29 per game and destroyed OKC's lacking perimeter defense. Carmelo Anthony was a no-show, shooting 37% from the field and 21% from 3, on a mediocre 12 points per game. Paul George and Russell Westbrook averaged their usual numbers, but it came on low shooting percentages. In a win-or-go-home Game 6, Westbrook scored 46 points, which should have ensured a win. Instead, his partners in crime, the players he was supposed to count on for help, laid eggs. George scored 5 points on 2 of 16 shooting, and Carmelo put up 7. OKC's season was over. A rookie had beaten them, and with PG set to be a free agent in the summer of 2018, misery seemed impending in Oklahoma City. An overwhelming amount of negative questions surrounded the Thunder's organization, but the summer of 2018 saw excitement rise from the ashes. Paul George surprisingly inked a 4-year max deal with the group. He was back, sporting those yellow, orange, and white jerseys once again. Carmelo departed from the team, leaving the duo of PG and Russ with the chance at redemption. By this point, the Thunder were looked at as playoff likely, but not championship contenders. They had a formidable duo, but outside of number 13 and number 0, the starting lineup was middling, and the bench was depleted. Uninspiring play came as a result of this. The 2018-19 season for the Thunder resulted in 49 wins total. The team had far too many holes on the bench. They lacked a solid starting shooting guard, and there was no consistent third option. Despite this, PG-13 had what was his best season up to that point, finishing third in the MVP race, averaging 28 and 8 rebounds, electrifying the team with his multitude of clutch performances. Russ took a back seat and allowed George to take over, a concept that many incorrectly believed Westbrook was incapable of doing. The Thunder trudged on to the 2019 playoffs with hopes of a somewhat deep run, but what they were instead met with was a dreadful, familiar round 1 exit. The Portland Trailblazers matched up with OKC and beat them in 5, with opposing star point guard Damian Lillard embarrassing Russell Westbrook. Lillard had noted beef with Russ over the years, and Dame got the last laugh, averaging a scorching hot 33 points per game in this series. He then capped it off with one of the most iconic game winners in NBA history, drilling a 40-foot three-pointer in Paul George's face to end the Thunder's season. He finished with 50 points, demoralizing the Thunder and outdueling Russell Westbrook, waving them goodbye as the crowd exploded into excitement. Little did spectators know this would be the last game of the Brodie's Thunder career. The 2019 offseason for the Thunder saw Paul George quietly request a trade to the LA Clippers. He was determined to play with the two-time champion and superstar in Kawhi Leonard. Once those headlines were announced to the NBA world, Westbrook knew he had tough decisions to make. It was obvious that OKC had little chances of winning a ring, so Westbrook also requested a trade, being sent to the Houston Rockets in a package for Chris Paul and picks. He was reunited with his former teammate and rival in James Harden, who coveted a ring just as dearly as Westbrook did. The Rockets were taking a shot at a championship and hoped that Russ would be the missing piece. They were going all in with this duo. The 2019-20 season for the Rockets saw the reunion of Harden and Westbrook having a questionable fit. The two were both talented and each put on highlight reel-worthy shows on a nightly basis, but together, the results were mediocre. Houston won 44 games out of 72, experimenting with small ball lineups throughout the regular season that produced mixed results. Russ was still his same old self, for better or for worse. His explosiveness remained, his passion was just as burning, but his poor shot selection and below average efficiency that had lingered throughout his career carried on. The 2020 playoffs in the bubble saw Westbrook finally advance past the first round for the first time since 2016. But in round 2, they were knocked out in 5 by LeBron James and the Lakers. Westbrook and Harden played their usual brand of basketball, but it wasn't enough. They were out-talented by Los Angeles. James Harden was growing frustrated with the team, and rumors of him wanting out began floating. Westbrook, seeing this, also not pleased with the poor fit between him and James, requested a trade, and the Washington Wizards jumped on the opportunity. Westbrook was sent from a championship contender to fringe playoff team, and he was now paired up with the offensive-minded guard Bradley Beal in DC. Gone were the expectations of a ring. People didn't expect much from this Wizards team, and Westbrook played well with his new squad. He erupted towards the end of the season, hitting clutch shots, throwing down dunks, and becoming a leader for the young guys in Washington. The team started 6-17, but finished 34-38. winning 15 of 20 to land the 8th seed in the East. A respectable run that demonstrated Russ's unwavering fight, but the outcome come playoff time was less than stellar. The Philadelphia 76ers beat them in 5. Washington's poor defense allowed Tobias Harris, a 19 points per game scorer, to average 25 per game. This series defeat marked the 4th first-round exit in the last 5 seasons for Russell Westbrook, and time was running out for him to win a ring. Russ realized this and requested a trade for the 3rd straight year, also encouraging fellow Wizard star Bradley Beal to do the same. Who would be the team that traded for the polarizing guard? That question lingered throughout the NBA, as one team began emerging as a candidate. 2,668 miles away in the city of Los Angeles, one team wearing purple and gold was having troubles. The Lakers had suffered a first-round exit at the hands of the Phoenix Suns, and the front office felt they needed more. One championship in 2020 left LeBron James and Anthony Davis hungry for more, and LeBron realized a 3rd option on offense would be beneficial. There were a few names the Lakers threw around, like DeMar DeRozan or Buddy Hield, but ultimately the team settled on a former MVP, Russell Westbrook. In late July of 2021, the Los Angeles Lakers traded a plethora of depth in a deal to land the star guard in Russell Westbrook. Immediately, the expectations of a championship rose in LA. The Lakers were favored 2nd overall in preseason finals bidding. Adding Russ to the duo of LeBron James and Anthony Davis appeared to build a dominant big three. This was Westbrook's best chance at a ring in half a decade. The stakes were high, all eyes were on the Lakers, and in the preseason, they went 0-6. Not exactly the most exhilarating start, but LeBron and Russ showed flashes of offensive success that delighted LA. Once the regular season arrived, the mediocrity continued. Los Angeles went 10-10 in their first 20. As the Lakers kept dropping games, anger continued to build in Los Angeles. It became quite clear rather quickly that Westbrook was a bad fit. There was no defense on the team, and the majority of players on the roster were past their prime. In mid-December of 2021, Anthony Davis suffered an MCL injury that knocked him out of the lineup for a month. The Lakers were inconsistent, becoming the laughingstock of basketball and collapsing to multiple games below 500. Russell Westbrook had beef with Frank Vogel, the head coach, Vogel often benching Russ in crunch time. Westbrook became infamously known throughout the league for his poor shot selection, constantly taking inefficient threes to the point where he was booed by Lakers fans. His post-game quotes didn't ease any fears either. He fired back and argued against reporters regularly, and got angered at fans who were calling him Westbrook. A horrible, nightmarish season for not only the Lakers, but Russell Westbrook himself. Heavy critics of his profess his playstyle will never win him a ring, while staunch supporters of his claim that he was placed in a poor situation that didn't fit his game. Russ may have struggled in Los Angeles, but one poor season shouldn't deny the 13 other years in which he was spectacular. Russell Westbrook has had one of the most controversial careers in NBA history. To fans, his playstyle is beloved, his highlights otherworldly, and his dunks are iconic. To detractors, his personality is questionable, his shot selection is viewed as miserable, and they theorize his ball-dominant offense will never land him a ring. Whichever side you stand on, what cannot be refused is his positive impact on the game of basketball. At just the age of 23, Russell Westbrook reached the NBA Finals, scoring 43 points in Game 4 against the Big Three Miami Heat. When faced with a disaster in the summer of 2016 with Kevin Durant departing, instead of giving up and leaving the Thunder, he responded by averaging a triple-double and winning the MVP. He remained loyal to OKC through thick and thin for a decade, and to many is considered the greatest player in Thunder history. Westbrook isn't perfect, but his story of triumph and hard work is a tale that will go unforgotten in NBA lore.